eating meat isn't a bad thing, but I do agree with your standpoint of the farming and the way that we're consuming meat is definitely unhealthy for our planet, for sure. I think that's very true.
Webster says,
How you going?
Good, how are you, man?
Oh, whoa.
Good.
I just have questions.
No, right on. Hey, I have answers.
I'm Jacob.
Jackson, nice to meet you.
How's your day been?
Pretty good, going pretty smooth. A lot of open-minded, very thoughtful
of
folks
course.
coming by.
No, so from moral standpoint, like an ethical point, or like a health benefit, or kind of a mix of both? What do you
well, veganism by definition just means to reduce the cruelty in your life as much as practically possible.
Okay.
So it's more of a moral aspect.
Okay.
There's great benefits though to reducing the cruelty in your life.
Yeah.
You can optimize your health on a whole foods plant-based diet, for example. You can also reverse climate change and address the leading cause of species extinction and world starvation, deforestation, ocean dead zones, desertification. There's so many reasons to go vegan, and it's such a simple little thing you can do. The very least we can do to reduce our cruelty is to stop directly funding the needless slaughter of innocent individuals through the dairy, egg, and meat industries.
Yeah. What do you feel about like hunting and things like that, where people go out and are kind of not just, I totally understand the factory farming, it's terrible conditions and stuff, but there are a lot of animals. I mean, there's no like human society that's ever been vegan outside of today with modern technology and whatnot. I guess, how's life? Outside of like modern technology where we can get B12s in pill form and whatnot, it was impossible for a human society to be vegan.
Okay.
And so, I mean, in like a ethical standpoint, I think that we are part of the food cycle. And I think that like eating meat isn't a bad thing, but I do agree with your standpoint of the farming and the way that we're consuming meat is definitely unhealthy for our planet, for sure. I think that's very true. But like, what's your stance on like, I know you're vegan, so obviously
on hunting
didn't disagree, but like,
that's a good question.
How do you feel about that, like hunting and those kinds of
of meat? So I don't feel like my taste buds alone are worth more than the life of a sentient individual. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. Since there's no biological imperative, we're not required to consume these products to be healthy. That's because we didn't evolve for the most of our evolution to consume animal products, from dead flesh, dairy, eggs. Even though there were ancestors who obviously hunted, that's for sure, especially in Arctic regions, they were few and far between. It was such a small blip in our human evolution that we never developed a biological dependency on those products.
That's true. There was never a dependency, but there was.
It's more of a cultural practice, like a guy's night out type of thing.
Squirrels eat lizards and things. That animals that we think of as herbivores will eat these high protein foods because they understand that they're beneficial to their bodies.
Sure. So there's, you're right. And as humans, we have moral agency, unlike many other animals. So we can see the difference between right and wrong, and we have the ability to choose between right and wrong. That's why I wouldn't condone hunting. I mean, look at like the movie Bambi. So many of us grew up with the movie Bambi, right? Where the first opening scene, the whole premise is the hunter's the antagonist because he took the mother of Bambi. And it's just the fact that society hasn't really woken up to that, but that we all understand it's wrong to take someone's mom away from them. All these animals in the environment, they were put there, they evolved there by the environment to maintain balance and biodiversity in the ecosystem. So humans, being the most invasive species on the planet, should probably stop going around just plucking out all these creatures. And if we switched to everyone, we stopped the factoring farming and we just do free range, grass-fed, hunt for all your own food, that would have way more devastating effects on the environment, because then, if they're free range, you have to provide them way more land to roam, whereas now, at least with factory farming, we got them in these little battery cages, so that's going to save up land resources and leave a little more arable land. And then water resources, you're going to have to make sure that you're giving water to all these animals if you want to take good care of them and have them humanely raised and all this stuff. It's way more resource intensive.
Totally understand.
So yeah.
I mean, free range takes way more in terms of that. Factory farming is cheap and easy, that's why they do it. Definitely very anti-factory farming. It's just such a terrible thing.
I think most people are. Once people see it, they have an innate guttural, visceral response to turn away from it. They don't salivate. We don't get hungry.
Yeah.
You know, even if I were to just have a pig here and slit its throat or put it in a gas chamber right in front of you, which is standard humane slaughter in the industry, you would probably say, that's gross. And you'd probably even stop me. You'd probably say, what are you doing? No, leave that sweet little pig alone. Yeah. But when I do it, it's done behind a wall, all of a sudden people are okay with it and they fund it at a mass rate, pouring over their bacon 3 times a day, you know? So I think most people, once they're exposed and educated to what's actually happening, the truth to their reality and the consequences of their actions, they wake up to it and they innately have a distaste for that stuff.
So you're completely against animal products. So like eggs and those things where, I mean, I obviously understand that most eggs nowadays are like come from a farm, but if I were to have 12 chickens or a dozen chickens,
sure,
like would you be against that? Like, what's your stance? I just
good question. Really good question. A lot of people ask that. So how did you get the hens?
You buy them, obviously.
You buy them from a breeder.
Yeah.
So they're forcibly bred into existence. That's kind of like,
but who's to say that I didn't go and find those chickens?
So if you rescued them. Okay, so if you rescue an animal and they have a byproduct, if you take that byproduct, you're viewing the animal as a resource, and that's an exploitative relationship.
Okay.
You know, you're viewing them as a product and a means to an end for your own taste buds. Because again, you don't eat eggs. A single egg has as much cholesterol as a Big Mac. Cholesterol is the leading cause of heart conditions, and heart conditions are the leading cause of death for all humans.
That's cholesterol in the way that we consume it. Cholesterol is good for your health. It's
well, we produce our own cholesterol, and that way it's good for your health. Added cholesterol has been proven to be one of the leading factors in coronary heart disease.
There's skepticism on the study. It was a long time ago, and he had interests in a few pharmaceutical companies and things, but.
What I'm talking about is overwhelming consensus within the scientific community, using only the highest tier of peer-reviewed, randomized, controlled, double-blind studies. And by far, the largest study on epidemiology, the China study, largest study ever on human health and nutrition and lifestyle, proved without a shadow of a doubt that these products are not necessary for us and that they're detrimental to our health. Yeah, 14 out of 15 of the leading killers of humans are caused by consumption of animal agriculture products. Okay. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. There's a lot of cool documentaries that use some of that data. I strongly encourage checking out some of that stuff. But a lot of people are unaware of how unhealthy they are. And since even if they aren't unhealthy, we don't need them for our health. So then there's a moral reason to just not take it from the chicken. And a lot of people don't know that the hens, when you take, that's like a period cycle for a female woman, a human female woman. So imagine if when a female woman had her period cycle, if we took her excretions and we consumed them. And when we do that, it tells the human woman's body to immediately start another period cycle. That's what happens when we take eggs from hens. It's called brooding. It forces their body to go, I need to produce more, because that's what we genetically breed them to do. They're only supposed to produce like a period, about 1 a month, but they produce hundreds every year because we genetically modified them to do so. And so it does put, imagine if you had a sister or your mom or your girlfriend, if you forced them to have their period over and over, because you're like, I really like the period blood. It's super gross, super weird to think about, right? It's such an odd concept when you actually put it in perspective. But that's very much what it's like. Not only is it nasty, but completely unnecessary, and it does do harm to the chicken's body. What a lot of animal sanctuaries do is they actually just feed the eggs back to the hens, because that tells their body to not overproduce and continue producing them. And you'll actually notice, if you've ever raised hens before, you'll notice that if you leave them with their eggs long enough, they instinctively go and eat them. They peck them apart and eat them. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Self-sufficient cycle there. So that's what a lot of animal sanctuaries will do. Instead of eating the eggs themselves, they let the eggs sit for a little while, and then they'll take them and feed them back.
Okay. I didn't know that. So there's a whole big movement of like the Impossible meat and Impossible burger, but they're full of chemicals and stuff.
Glyphosate and shit. Yeah, for sure.
So like how do you feel about that? Like this idea that they want to make things taste like meat, but they're pumping them full of chemicals, and it's not just a plant anymore. It's now
it may not be a healthy choice as opposed to a whole food plant-based option, but it's significantly healthier still than eating a piece of dead flesh. Like, have you ever seen a dead body or the dead carcass of an animal? It rots, it smells gross. Humans have about a 3 times as long intestine as a carnivore carnivore or an omnivore. They have about a third of the length of their intestine. So they eat that meat, it's absorbed, done. But we have that dead flesh, that nasty flesh rotting as it slowly pushes through our entire, that gives us cancer, it gives us colon problems, all sorts, just a plethora of issue. Gives us, a diabetes, obesity, again, like top 14 out of 15 leading killers of humans are consumption of these products. The only one of that, the 15th of those top 14 is getting hit by a bus, getting hit by a car. So yeah, unfortunately veganism won't save you from getting hit by a car, but as far as the other killers, they're all caused by our diets and the consumption of these nasty products that we don't need to eat. But so it's a much better alternative. It's like going from smoking to vaping. Sure, vaping's not great for your health, but it's going to be significantly better than smoking cigarettes, and we know that. But it also helps, people transition. Once people are able to break away, those foods are highly addictive to us, and our bodies become dependent on them after years and years, decades of consuming just one type of product, animal agriculture products. So when we transition, it gives us the opportunity to then, very much like with vaping, to then detach from it, because those, the glyphosate Impossible Burgers aren't going to be quite as addictive as the meat products. But yeah, and you can make your own whole foods, like plant-based burgers and stuff like that. There's more recipes nowadays online. If you got a blender, it's pretty much, you can make whatever you want nowadays. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta go to class, but
thanks for chatting with me, man. I appreciate it.
Get some great points.
Hey, right on. I like it.
You know what that China study was called?
It was called The China Study. That's the name of it. Yeah, you can Google that. It's not on there. I highly recommend checking out like What the Health and Game Changers. They've accumulated all of this, fact-based, peer-reviewed data and put it into a really cohesive documentary kind of format.
Okay, that's one of these.
Yeah, I don't think Game Changers is on there, but What the Health is. Just everything under the health segment there. Check that out. You'll see a lot of the what the scientific community has kind of concluded.
It's been wonderful talking.
Yeah, hey, great questions, man. Have a good time in class.
You too. Oh, you're not going to be in class.
Thanks.